Hey everyone, iRix Guy here, and before I continue, I want to remind everyone I am not a mechanic, so do not attempt anything that I'm about to show. With that being said, what I wanted to do for entertainment purposes only is share my experience. So I encountered this issue: emergency call function, malfunction, function unavailable, please contact service. And it happened every few months or so, and then it got to where it was happening several times a day. And now I can't get into my 2021 Audi A4 without this flashing up at least every few minutes or so. And it comes with a very annoying chime that can be distracting while you're driving. So what did I do to troubleshoot this, and what was the outcome of my troubleshooting? Let's go ahead and jump right in. So after attempting what other people had suggested by, pushing the SOS button and then canceling the SOS call, that didn't fix me. Also, depressing the right volume button on the steering wheel, that didn't fix me. So then what I did as a third step is I disconnected the battery. You can see here, battery's in the trunk. I've disconnected the negative only. No need to disconnect both. So I disconnected the negative lead of the battery, and then I tried to turn on my vehicle, and of course it wouldn't turn on because the battery's disconnected. So my hope there was that maybe by power cycling it, that the issue may go away. So this is on the driver's side of the car, and it's under the little footrest thing, and it's a series of fuses. And again, I've got the 2020 Audi A4. So I'm going to show you here in a minute which fuses I removed, and I removed them several times because I found it was a support article suggesting that removing these two fuses several times, may resolve the issue. So let me show you what I did to remove this here. So the first thing, this little plastic cap was on the foot piece. I just popped it out with a thin flathead screwdriver, and then you can see that exposed this hole in the plastic foot piece where there was a screw that I took out with this special tip screwdriver. I think it's called a Torx. I'll link it within this video's description. But then I was able to view the inside of this fuse box on the driver's side. Again, the 2020 Audi A4. So the fuses that I took out, let me jump over to that. So the first one I took out was in the top middle red, and you can see I'm pointing to it. It's 1 0 that's upside down. Curiously enough, that's how it was. So from the top, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was a 7th slot from the top. So again, that's the red section in the middle top of the fuse box area. So that's the first fuse that I took out. And this is the second fuse that I took out. I'm pointing to it. It's also a 1 0, a 10. And it's in the middle bottom part, and it's the second from the top, as you can see there. So I repeated this procedure, 5, 6, 7 times, with hopes that it might clear the SOS issue, but it didn't. So then I proceeded with the next steps that I'm about to show. Now, obviously, I'm not an Audi mechanic. I just got on the internet and researched a lot and looked at my owner's manual. But what I was able to find, and this is not a recommendation because you may not be able to do this, but what I was able to find is this fuse. So right here, this is the little foot cover, that goes there. This is a 2020 Audi A4. So that's the foot cover that goes right there. It covers this fuse box. So what I did, I took that off. I had to use just a little flathead screwdriver to pop this piece out that kind of hides the screw. And then I had to take this out. Now keep in mind, this is a Torx type screw, and I've linked within this video's description if you're not really tool savvy. I've provided a link to what I use, and this fit it perfectly. I was able to take it out, and I'm going to be able to put it back on. But once you get in here, you're going to see a variety of fuses. Now, I performed a lot of different troubleshooting scenarios. One thing I did before I did this, I took the battery, I disconnected the battery, and check that out in my separate video. But I disconnected the battery with hopes that, without saying it better, hopefully it would power cycle the system and maybe it would work. But it didn't. The SOS error continued to appear. I also attempted, there were a couple of other things that I found within a technical article. There were a couple of other fuses in this that I removed, restarted, removed, repeated that process about 7 times. That did not clear it. But what I did find is this, and this is the fuse that I've taken out. And again, it is worth mentioning, This is not a recommendation at all. It's probably something you should probably not do. And again, I'm not a mechanic, but what I did, I identified this fuse in here. So this middle one here, this red one, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See that slot right there that's empty? The 9th slot from the top. I'm going to point to it with my screwdriver. That slot right there that's empty. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I took this fuse out of there. The fuse itself does not appear to be dead. I don't see any charring or anything that suggests that it's got a problem. But what I'm probably going to do is pick up another, fuses are cheap. So I'm probably going to pick up another fuse and see if, maybe by putting one in there, that maybe it'll clear the issue. But with this fuse removed, and I'm going to do a follow-up video, but at least immediately I have not re-encountered the SOS issue. Now keep in mind, though, that by having this removed, this has probably disabled the SOS functionality, which wasn't working anyway. So, my thoughts are until I can get this repaired, the SOS wasn't working anyway, but it was continuously reminding me every few minutes or so with an annoying chirp. And that could be a distraction while you're driving. If you hear an alarm like that go off, you can look down and you could potentially get in a wreck. So I made the judgment call for myself. Again, not a recommendation, but I made the judgment call for myself to take this fuse out with hopes that SOS error won't return and, until I can get it repaired. So hope this video helps. Again, this is not a recommendation, but I'm just telling you what I did, and this has really frustrated me. If you're like me, you don't want to be distracted while you're driving, and driving down the road and hearing that siren go off every few minutes or so it was driving me crazy, man. I was hearing it in my sleep at night. That's how bad it was. So the end result is that by removing the fuse that I removed in the latter part of this video, this message, SOS, emergency call function, malfunction, function unavailable, please contact service, it has not reappeared. So again, I'm not a mechanic, and none of this was a recommendation, but my assumption is that probably what I've done is I've probably formally disabled SOS, so maybe the system is not looking for it as a vehicle option. That's my assumption. And at least with that being the case, with this malfunctioning, as I had mentioned, every few minutes or so while I was driving, it was a ding, a very shrill and get your attention kind of sound. And that's not something I want while I'm driving. And it was doing it every few minutes or so. So, with the SOS not working anyway, and that continuing to appear until I can get, if it didn't make that sound, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It wouldn't be a distraction. But because it makes that sound, it makes you jump. And then, you could potentially take your eyes off of the road and potentially have a wreck. So I made the judgment call for my personal safety, again, my opinion, that by having it disabled, it's not working anyway. And at least if by taking this fuse out, hopefully it'll prevent it from making that sound and flashing this message. Again, I don't really care that so much about the message, but the sound is what was really getting me. So, hopefully I can get this fixed soon. As we know, with supply chain issues and everything, it is next to impossible to get anything done. So, at least now I've got a vehicle that's not making a shrill sound every few minutes or so. But if anybody watching this knows of a better fix, please let me know. Again, I've performed all the steps outlined within this video, the initial series of steps. They didn't provide any relief. I was optimistic that hopefully by disconnecting the car battery, that would, for lack of a better word, reboot the system, but it didn't. And again, I've tried the pushing down on the volume button on the right side of the steering wheel. Resetting the MMI, that didn't do anything. I've tried something somebody else suggested with the SOS button, up above, right in front of the sunroof, pressing that, holding it for like 60 seconds, and then when the SOS call is attempted, then, cancel it. But, that didn't clear the issue either. So, I don't know if there's, if there's something, the only thing I can think of, the only thing that I've done that was out of character, and this was the day before this appeared, I had a bunch of backpacking stuff in the back. So since I had that in there, I folded both the back seats forward so that I could make room for all my gear. Now, if you know something about this, let me know. But I think there's cables for one of the components. Is it the communications module or something like that? Comment below and tell me. But I think there may be something in the 2020 Audi A4 underneath the rear seat or behind the rear seat. And again, I took everything up in the back to where I could see where the battery and spare tire reside, but I didn't see anything there. But is it possible that by folding the two back seats down when I was putting a bunch of stuff in the back to transport, is it possible that the act of folding those seats forward, the rear seats forward, could that have disconnected some sort of cable? Maybe there is a physical cable connection issue, or maybe that's a coincidence. But anytime an issue occurs, I try to track back and think, okay, what out of character was performed a few hours or a day or so prior to the issue. And that's the only thing I can think of. Now, again, I've had this issue in the past sporadically, but ever since it started this time, and this was after I'd folded those rear seats forward, every time that it's started since then, it'll do it every few minutes or so. So powering off the car, leaving it off, disconnecting the battery, everything I've explained within this video, it hasn't caused it to go away. The only thing that's made it go away is removing that fuse, which I know that's disabled, or I assume that's disabled the SOS. Now, I do have an unrelated issue, and it exists with that fuse removed, with it inserted. When I make a phone call, whether I've got my iPhone through Apple CarPlay with the physical cable tether in my glove box or the center console, or actually it won't let me pair. So the Bluetooth pairing no longer works. So I can't pair my phone with Bluetooth. And I've even reset the MMI to factory defaults and went through the setup again. It won't let me. So whatever's happened has impacted the ability to, it's hit the SOS. It's also broken the ability, if you use the Audi App or my Audi App or whatever it is, where you can see your fuel level and where your car is and unlock the doors and that sort of stuff. That connectivity is unavailable. And then also, if I physically tether my iPhone to the car for Apple CarPlay, and I make a call or receive a call, now the Apple CarPlay works, but if I make a call or receive a call, I can hear the other person, but they can't hear me. So it seems like it's disconnected the in-car microphone. So if you have any insight, please share below, because this has frustrated me beyond belief. And if you're like many, you're a professional, you've got a lot of obligations, and you don't have time to just sit and wait for something to be repaired. If it's as simple as a cable connection, come on, just tell me, where is that cable and how do I access it? Or is there something else that needs to be reset? Please comment below, and I appreciate y'all watching this video. Have a good day. Hey y'all, Captain IRIX Guy here. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to subscribe. It's youtube.com/IRIX Guy. And ring that bell icon when you do to be notified whenever I post another video. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day.